Let's talk about this story. Alabama Supreme Court rules frozen embryos are children under state law. Critics said the decision could have sweeping implications for fertility treatment in the state.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs!
This was written by the Associated Press on Politico, February 20th, 2024. The Alabama Supreme Court has ruled that frozen embryos can be considered children under state's law.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, dude.
A decision critics said could have sweeping implications for fertility treatment in the state. The decision was issued in a pair of wrongful death cases brought by three couples who had frozen embryos destroyed in an accident at the fertility clinic. Oops. Justices, citing anti-abortion language in the Alabama Constitution, ruled that in an 1872 state law allowing parents to sue over the death of a minor child applies to all unborn children regardless of their location. Unborn children are children without exception based on developmental stage, physical location, or any other ancillary characteristics, Justice J. Mitchell wrote in Friday's majority ruling by the all-Republican courts. Now, before we continue with this, I feel like we should watch a few minutes of this video put up by the Cleveland Clinic. As we can see, this video has over 1 million views, was put up on November 16th, 2022, and it explains how in vitro fertilization works. Let's check this out.
3. Egg retrieval. Once the eggs are mature, it's time for egg retrieval. During this step, a suction device connected to a long, thin needle is inserted through your vagina. This will puncture ovarian follicles and pull the mature eggs out. Removed eggs are placed
Mature eggs.
in a petri dish containing a special solution.
So plural, as we can see, there are 3 eggs in this particular petri dish.
And then placed in an incubator for a short period of time. Since this procedure is mildly invasive, medication and sedation are used. Step 4. Fertilization. Fertilization of the eggs takes place within a day during a procedure known as an intracytoplasmic sperm injection. A single sperm is introduced into each mature egg.
All right, do you guys see this picture right here? I really want to focus on this. And I know, a picture is not an argument. That's not the point of this. But this right here, just so we're clear, this right here, this image right here, this is the moment that many anti-abortionists think is the starting point for legal protection of an individual. And this is not some straw man. I saw conservative commentator Josh Hammer, he wrote an op-ed for Newsweek applauding this recent decision by the Alabama Supreme Court. Matt Walsh over at Daily Wire dedicated a whole segment to talking about how this was such a wonderful decision. And this manifests itself even politically in the law books. Not to pivot over to Kentucky, but as you can see right here, it talks about how it starts at fertilization. Unborn human being means an individual living member of the species of the Homo sapiens species throughout the entire embryonic and fetal stages of the unborn child, from fertilization to full gestation and childbirth. So right here, when it comes to in vitro fertilization, this is the moments that a lot of anti-abortion conservatives think that an individual deserves legal protection. And I've seen some people make jokes about this. People have joked that, if you're at a fertility clinic and you have a toddler with you and there's a big fire, do you try to rescue the toddler, or do you run to the freezer to try to grab a few dozen embryos, fertilized eggs? Because after all, in their eyes, it's all the same. This fertilized egg has the same legal standing as a 9-year-old. People have also joked that at this point, yeah, you might as well give it a name, print up a social security number, start claiming them as dependents on your taxes. People have joked, yeah, why don't get a bunch of embryos frozen and then you can claim a lot of dependents on your taxes. Wonder how that would work with the child tax credit. How much money you can get back from the government by claiming all of these legally recognized children as individuals worthy of protection under the law.
On average, about 70% of mature eggs will successfully fertilize. Step 5, embryo development. Now comes the growing and waiting. Fertilized eggs are monitored and left to develop over.
See right there, you see all those petri dishes? Those are those have the same legal standing as a toddler or a teenager.
The next several days, with cells actively dividing. About half of fertilized embryos will progress to the blastocyst stage when they are suitable for transfer into a uterus. Embryos that are suitable for transfer can either be used right away or frozen for future transfer.
So what I'm getting from this video, and I've gotten this from reading different articles, it seems to be a common practice when, a couple, when they're trying to have kids and, going on a few trips to the boneyard. When too many trips to the boneyard is not bearing any fruit, couples might have to resort to this process in order to have families. And it looks like it's common practice for clinics to fertilize multiple eggs. And it even talks about it in this article. It talks about how this ruling that a fertilized egg, which is a clump of cells, is now a person. It really puts into question the practice of IVF. Barbara Kalura, CEO of Resolve, the National Infertility Association, told the Associated Press. The group called the decision a terrifying development for the 1 in 6 people impacted by infertility who need in vitro fertilization. She said it raises questions for providers and patients, including if they can freeze future embryos created during fertility treatment, or if patients could ever donate or destroy unused embryos.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs!
Step 6, embryo transfer. Within a week after fertilization, it's time to transfer the embryos. This is a short procedure that only takes about 10 minutes and feels very similar to a pelvic exam or a pap smear. A speculum is placed within the vagina, and a thin catheter is inserted through the cervix into the uterus. An embryo or embryos are then injected through the catheter into the uterus. After an embryo transfer, you may experience symptoms such.
So yeah, I just want to make it clear, the embryo is then put back inside of the mother. And I think this is worth really concretizing that this is the starting point. It's not, this whole debate is not really about the but what about 5 minutes before birth?
Blow it out your ass.
It's not about but what if the fetus can survive outside of the womb? No, it's right here. It's not only is this where they want to start, this is the starting point. It's fertilization of the egg, and as we can see, this is being reflected by Alabama state courts. It's reflected in Kentucky law. We'll see how this plays out in Kentucky. And it looks like one of the consequences of making this the starting point of legal protection of an individual is that infertility clinics, IVF clinics, won't want to get involved with infertility. If an accident can result in them getting held responsible for murder or manslaughter, not to mention the punitive damages involved, who in their right mind would want to operate a fertility clinic when these are the stakes? When if you fertilize too many eggs and only use one, and the patient does not want to pony up the money to keep them frozen or whatever, and you can't find someone who's willing to take it on as a donation, What do you do with it then? Who's going to want to operate a fertility clinic in a world like this where there are harsh consequences for unused embryo? Then there's the fact that this court decision brought the Bible into their opinion. Chief Justice Tom Parker issued a concurring opinion in which he quoted the Bible,
Blow it out your ass.
in discussing the meaning of the phrase, the sanctity of unborn life, in the Alabama Constitution. Even before birth, all human beings bear the image of God, and their lives cannot be destroyed without effacing his glory. And put aside that this obviously brings religion into a place where it does not fucking belong. Doesn't this sort of give away the game for a lot of anti-abortionist conservatives? Many of whom, to their credit, I guess, from what I've seen over the years, they have tried hard to secularize this debate. I've seen atheist anti-abortionists. I've seen atheists who are against abortion, libertarian types who are against abortion, who take on this perspective of, well, you know, life starts at fertilization, and if you kill the life, then, yeah, who's to say that it's not murder or manslaughter or whatever? Well, any anti-abortionists who are still interested in keeping this debate secular, they might have to answer for these judges in Alabama who are bringing in the Bible to make their decisions over these issues. Or you might have to explain this to a political media that's becoming increasingly interested in all of this Christian nationalism talk, as liberals and others on the left are trying to hang the baggage of Christian nationalism around Republicans and conservatives. And on top of that, a lot of these people are going to have to deal with the fact that their principles are going to have this unintended consequence. And maybe a lot of them are okay with this. It's been reported, I've seen in some articles, that this has put a lot of Republicans and conservatives in a bit of a pickle, in a bit of a bind, because a lot of these same conservatives, they're pro-family. They're pro-family values. They think the purpose of life is starting a family. They want every American to settle down as soon as possible and get married and settle down and have kids. Well, if they struggle to have kids by going on some trips to the boneyard, they might have to turn to a fertility clinic. They might have to turn to in vitro fertilization, which will be very difficult if the law says that fertilized eggs are now worthy of protection under the law. Now people will be unwilling to operate IVF clinics out of fear of legal retribution. Now there might be some good news, according to AL.com. This was written by Mike Kasson, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey. I guess her and some Democrats in the legislature. She's a Republican. The governor of Alabama is a Republican, but I think some Democrats in the minority House are proposing legislation not to really legalize abortion, but to really just make an exception, saying that any fertilized human egg or human embryo that exists outside of a human uterus is not considered an unborn child or human being for any purpose under state law. I guess that's how they're going to try to have their cake and eat it too. Because, yeah, they don't want to alienate people who want to have families and can't. This really makes it difficult to present themselves as being pro-family values. I don't think they just want to say tough luck, tough shit to families who want to start families and can't, because abortion laws have resulted in fertility clinics shrugging. And in general, as I've been saying, I think Republicans are running scared on the issue of abortion. I think they're starting to recognize that it is a losing issue. It is very unpopular, at least outside of deep red states where they face little political opposition in places like Alabama. And I guess this effort to make an exception is better than nothing. It's better than nothing. But it will be interesting to see where the conservatives go. Whether or not the pro-family, anti-abortion conservatives. It will be interesting to see how they play this issue going forward.